I want to welcome everyone back to our Peaceful Solutions certification course. It's great to see everyone here tonight. And we finished in our previous class, we finished going through the parenting manual. So now what we're going to begin is the review to prepare ourselves for the upcoming test. So I want to encourage you to get your highlighters out, your pens out, and be ready to highlight and take notes because we're going to go through it tonight. And I just want to mention that on the test, there is going to be 15 true or false questions. And just when you're doing the test, make sure you read through each question carefully. The answers are all going to be coming straight out of the parenting manual. So they're not to trick you, but just to prepare our minds for questions that we might be asked whenever we are teaching these things to our parents. Okay, so with that, let's go ahead and get started. If you have your books, we're going to start on page G, right in the front of the book. It's after the table of contents here. We're going to start on page G, and it's the note to parents. And the first thing that we're going to go ahead and highlight is starting on paragraph 3. You can begin highlighting. It says, the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program is designed to teach moral excellence in a world that is increasingly becoming morally bankrupt. Okay, so this right here is something you want to highlight. This is the goal of this program right here. And it can seem very overwhelming, whenever these parents are learning these things because of the society that we are living in today, and the morals are really declining. But this book is going to give them hope, and it breaks everything down step by step so that they can understand that, even though we live in this society today, there's still hope for our children, and we can start by teaching them the concepts that are in this book. So turning over to page H, the next page over, and under the heading where it says, why start with character education? And you're going to highlight this whole first paragraph here under that heading. And I want you to keep in mind that this is an analogy. It gives us an analogy right here. And when you're teaching these things, you want to stick with the analogies that are given in the book. It says, have you ever tried to shape a piece of clay that is dried? It is a frustrating, disappointing, and futile effort. The ordinary person, faced with this challenge, would give up in frustration and just throw the clay away, or wet it and try to make it usable. We can compare this analogy to our children. If we neglect to teach character education at the earliest possible age, it is much like leaving the clay out to dry. Okay, and I really want to emphasize that point right there. If we neglect to teach character education at the earliest possible age, it is much like leaving the clay out to dry. And this is not to discourage the parents that, maybe they have teenagers. As we go through this book, we're going to learn that it's never too late to start teaching character education. But if you do have that opportunity to start, before that child is even born, then you want to take that opportunity because it's very vital. It says, after our child's character has formed by the age of 3, we then begin to teach morals and values that could have been taught before they were born. Okay, so really the importance of starting as early as possible is crucial. Okay, if you go down to the very bottom of that page on page H, you're going to start highlighting this next paragraph that starts with, in the meantime. It says, in the meantime, the parents grow increasingly more frustrated and disappointed with the child's behavior. They let the child continue in that pattern of negative behavior, not realizing character education holds the key to changing hearts and minds at any age. Okay? And there, the goal of the Peaceful Solution is mentioned once again, so we see how important it really is. The child, unaware of why he behaves the way he does, begins to see himself as a bad person, incapable of changing. In essence, we can teach a child to give up on himself. And that is one of the worst things, that can occur. That's not the kind of message that us as teachers or parents want to send to our children or anyone. Everyone has the ability to make right choices. We can also teach him that he is unworthy of love and respect. Resentful and deprived of hope, these children often resort to violence, aggression, or self-destructive behavior. And you're going to keep highlighting, it is a common knowledge that if a child cannot get positive feedback, he will seek it in a negative way. Okay, so that's another thing that's so important, is that we reinforce any positive things that our students or our children are doing. Really reinforce them, because the last thing we want them to do is feel like they're not getting enough of our attention, so they turn to negative behavior and start to act up because they want that attention. Okay, so turning over to page 1, we're starting lesson 1, entitled, So You're Going to Be a Parent. And in that first paragraph, on the 4th line, where it starts with your role as a parent, your role as a parent begins. You're going to highlight these 2 sentences here. Your role as a parent begins from the moment of conception. Remember, a positive parent is responsible for the safety, health, well-being, and education of her infant. Okay, so each one of those steps is important for a child's proper growth and development. Their safety, health, well-being, and education. Okay, going down on that page under parental care, a woman's physical needs, you're going to highlight this first sentence. It says, as soon as you realize you are pregnant, it is very important to become educated on all you need to know, beneficial for yourself and the baby. Okay, so that positive character trait of educated, you're going to hear that a lot because that's important. We want to become educated on what's going to be beneficial for not only the baby, but also yourself. And when the child is in the womb, he or she experiences the emotions and the sounds of the parent. They're very aware of everything that is going on around them, even though they're not out in the world yet. So anything that the mother does during that time affects the baby. If you turn the page to page 2, we're going to look at, you can start highlighting here where it says, babies can hear and learn while in the womb. And you're going to highlight this first sentence. For many years, we have erroneously believed that an unborn child floats in the utero totally unaware of the world around him. This is simply not true. And jumping down under the italicized part, starting with, even prior to the external structural development of the ears at 16 weeks, the unborn child has the ability to hear and react to sound. Okay, so studies have proven that children can hear in the womb. Okay, so you're going to highlight that sentence as well. And jumping down to the paragraph at the bottom where it starts with, in a study done. It says, in a study in the Netherlands, doctors also use sound to determine if a child could learn and remember while still in the womb. By using a specific noise, they were able to monitor the child's reaction and recognition to the sound. They found that while a fetus moved when they first heard the sound, they later became used to it and did not react. According to the doctors, this showed the fetuses were able to remember the sound and learn it was harmless. The unborn child not only hears what is occurring in the external world, but can also learn while still in the womb. Okay, so, now that you're giving these parents the understanding that their child has the ability to learn while in the womb, you really want to get them to thinking, what would I want my child learning? And really ponder on that. What do I want my child to learn and experience during this time? Okay, and the next part here in the box, we have the definition for the word learn. Okay, so if this word is on the test, this is the definition that you're going to want to give. And it means, the word learn means to acquire knowledge, skill, or a behavioral tendency through study, instruction, or experience. Okay, let's turn over to page 4. And under the heading, Learning and the Subconscious Mind, and you're going to highlight this first paragraph here. Everything that the parental child experiences in the utero is processed, analyzed, and stored by the control center of the body. The brain processes the information that is acquired through sound and the emotions of the mother and stores it in the subconscious mind, which has a primary function of absorbing and storing information. Okay, so the subconscious mind, it stores information. Everything that we see, hear, everything is going into the subconscious mind. And if you jump down to the last paragraph on page 4, you're going to highlight it as well. Without this information, it is easy to blame the child. Statements such as, "He is so stubborn," or "He has discipline problems," are verbalized liberally in regards to children who persist in dealing with frustrations in an aggressive way. So instead of accusing them or blaming them for acting out and making these choices, we need to teach them instead. Continuing on, it says, as we deal with children who are aggressive, it helps to keep in mind that their behavior may not entirely be their fault. Our genetics, as well as many other factors, even before we are born, all help to shape us. Okay, and most importantly, we have to model the behavior that we want to see in our children. We can't expect them to act a certain way or do certain things when they look at their parents and their parents aren't doing those things. So we have to be the first to show them how to behave and act in an appropriate way. Going over to page 5, under the heading, There's a Job for You Too, Dad. You're going to highlight that whole paragraph there. It says, for fathers, this is also an exciting time. You can participate by being there for the mother and plan together what you will need for the baby. You can also assist by encouraging eating of healthy meals and reminding the mother to take her vitamins. This type of support is very important. It not only assists the woman in having a joyful pregnancy, but also allows you to feel like part of the process. Okay, so this is showing right here that the dad has a job too, even before the child is born, and his job is just as important as the mother's job is. Okay, going down to how do I know it's time? You're going to highlight this first sentence right here. And, you know, when you're teaching this, most women will know this part, but you might be asked how long a pregnancy is. And here's the answer you would give, right here in the book in sentence 1. A normal pregnancy lasts between 37 to 42 weeks. However, every woman is different. Okay, so that's the answer that you would give them right there. And whenever you're teaching, you always want to stick to the information given in the book. Okay, turning over to page 6, we have your new baby. Okay, so you're going to highlight this whole section right here under that heading. It says, the birth of your newborn is a very joyful and wonderful event. This little one has been cared for and nurtured inside your body for the last 9 months and now in your arms. Be prepared to comfort your baby after birth by holding her and speaking to her. And, you know, we want to think, what kind of lasting impression do I want my baby to have? Okay, that's a very, very special moment. It says, in the first weeks after your baby is born, it is vital to hold her as much as possible. And, you know, I know some people say that you don't want to do this, you don't want to hold your baby that much because you will spoil the baby. But that is not what the Peaceful Solution teaches. holding your baby is, part of bonding with that child, and it's very important. It says this is time for both mom and dad to bond and build a firm foundation of love and trust. It is you who will teach your child what it means to trust. And remember, trust is something that it comes over time. It has to be earned. By showing her that you will be there to take care of her needs and to comfort her, she will have a strong foundation to assist her the rest of her life. The physical needs of a baby include being fed, kept warm and clean, and being given comfort and emotional support. That's not asking much, but it will take a lot of time and effort on your part. This is also a vital time for building on the foundation of a positive character you have been teaching since your child was in the womb. Okay, so at this stage, this child is looking to the parents for everything that they will need. So now we went over the different things such as feeding your baby, sleeping, holding your baby, bathing. And, in this book, the Peaceful Solution brings out some very important points here. Like, for instance, under bathing, it says you can add about 1 teaspoon of salt per full tub of water. And it also says applying a little honey at each diaper change will help the cord to fall off within a few days. Okay, so those are some things that the Peaceful Solution teaches. And if you go down on page 8, the paragraph starting with the word never, you want to highlight this paragraph because this is very important. Never, it says, never leave the baby unattended while in the tub or sink. Gather everything you will need to bathe her before she is ever placed in the water. Be sure that the room where the baby is bathing is warm and not drafty, and remember to always support her head and neck. So that's a very important point. Okay, we also went over diaper changes, crying, social interaction, and sickness. And you really want to emphasize how important it is to ask for help. If the parents ever have a question, they don't know, how to do something or what the best way to go about a situation is, never be afraid to ask for help because, just as you're bringing this child into the world, it may be your very first time, you're also learning as well. And every parent will make mistakes, but, if you want to do the best you can for that child, you won't be afraid to ask for help. Okay, under the heading, keep this in mind. You're going to start highlighting here. It says, as a parent, you have the ability to begin shaping your child's character even before he is born. Okay, so here we have this point that we've already brought up about 2 other times here, so this is very important. Studies and experiments prove that babies can learn while still in the womb, and what we learn even before we are born has the potential to affect our choices and our character. It doesn't stop there. The formative years from birth to 3 years old are a time of rapid mental growth. And that's where you're going to stop highlighting. Okay, so that completes lesson 1. Now we're going to go into lesson 2. And you can turn over to page 11. Lesson 2, effective parenting begins with character. And the first paragraph here that starts with parents, you're going to begin highlighting this. Parents are responsible for raising another person from a state of total helplessness and dependency to a mature adult with positive character who is respectful, responsible, and compassionate towards others. Okay, so that is a huge responsibility that parents have, raising another person who is completely helpless and turning them into someone who, is a mature adult who will have a successful future. And under the box there, you're going to highlight this next sentence. Negative influences can destroy a person's way of thinking and being. Our children are not exempt. Okay, and we never want to underestimate the power that an influence has, because it can destroy the mind. And it doesn't only affect our children. It affects parents, adults, it affects everyone. So that's something to keep in mind as well. Influences are very powerful. Going down to the last paragraph, we have the definition for immorality, and you're going to highlight this definition. You might not be able to fit the whole definition on your test whenever you're writing it, but this is the definition. Immorality can be defined as a lack of morality, an immoral act or practice, not discerning between right and wrong, teaching a conception of negative behavior, doing or saying something that brings harm to self, others, and the environment. Okay, so that's what the definition for immorality is. Turning over to page 12. At the top it says, without teaching of moral character education, it would be impossible to raise positive moral children in today's world. Although modern-day parenting is filled with new challenges that our ancestors did not have, the elements of positive, effective parenting have remained basically the same since the beginning of time. Regardless of the times in which we live and the challenges that face us, and you're going to begin highlighting here, effective parents have 3 common traits. And you're going to highlight these 3 common traits. They have positive moral character. They understand the tremendous responsibility they have towards their children, and they prepare their minds and hearts to nurture, protect, teach, and guide their children always from a moral perspective. Going over to page 13, we have the heading Acknowledging Mistakes, Finding Solutions. And you're going to begin highlighting the first sentence here. It says, an important step in your training to become a better, more efficient parent is to acknowledge that there are areas you need to improve in, because even the very best parents can make mistakes. And that's okay. You know, everyone makes mistakes, but the important thing is that whenever you do make a mistake, you can acknowledge that you made a mistake and learn from it and figure out, you know, what am I going to do next time so I don't make this a habit or a pattern. Because now we're going to go into the difference between a mistake and a deliberate choice. So in the second paragraph here it says, the mistakes in parenting that we are referring to do not include verbal, physical, emotional, or sexual abuse, nor do they include being negligent towards the needs of a child. Okay, so those right there, those are not mistakes, okay? These types of abuses are not mistakes. They are willful and heinous violations of the innocence and trust of a child. And, you know, we talked about the importance of building that trust. Once that trust is broken, it can be very hard to get it back. Okay, so we don't want to get to that point where we lose the trust with our children. You're going to continue highlighting. It says, if you or anyone else in your family have committed any of these abuses, then seek counsel immediately and determine in your mind never to repeat any of these abusive behaviors again. Note the following examples of these abuses and the effects they produce. Okay, and we have, on this page we have, you can just highlight the headings, verbal abuse, physical abuse, and both of those forms are just as bad. If you turn over to page 14, you can highlight emotional abuse and sexual abuse. And, you know, even though it might seem a little bit uncomfortable to bring up these certain topics whenever teaching, they are things that sadly occur and are very common in our society today. So we do need to, you know, bring them up. Going down to the paragraph starting with the mistakes in parenting, you're going to begin highlighting there. It says the mistakes in parenting that we are referring to are those times when you might respond impatiently when dealing with a child by using a harsh tone of voice instead of a kind, gentle tone. Okay, and you can correct a child firmly without yelling. It is possible to do. And I also wrote to the side that name calling is verbal abuse. It might seem harmless and, like it's not a big deal, but words really do affect us. I'm sure we all can think of a situation where maybe someone said something to us, whether it was positive or negative, and you can still remember exactly what they said, and you take those things with you for the rest of your life. And then we have some examples of other mistakes. You can keep highlighting. Not setting proper limits or rules for your child, such as not having a bedtime or allowing the child to do whatever he wants just to get him out of your hair. The next one, not correcting disrespectful behavior, such as backtalk or having tantrums, and not setting a proper example. And when these things aren't addressed, then they become habits. And that's where we fall into patterns of negative behavior. So although, at first the parents might not really see the harm or the damage that it's causing by, allowing their child just to get away with a certain thing, one time, the more the child begins to do that, then it could turn into a serious problem. So you want to get them to see that whenever these things do come up, you want to do something about them in a polite, in a kind, in a respectful way, so that those things don't become a habit. And you can highlight this part at the bottom of page 14, the last paragraph. It says, correcting the mistakes we make in our lives, whether in parenting or any other role, takes determination. It also takes setting your mind in advance to find the solution and overcome the problem. Give yourself room to improve and grow as a parent through self-analysis, listening, and learning. Okay, that's very important. You have to give yourself room to grow and be patient with yourself because it is a learning experience. And if you go over to right over on page 15, you're going to highlight this last paragraph at the very bottom. It says, keep in mind why you want to become a better parent, as well as the things you need to improve and your strengths. Knowing what you need to work on as an individual and as a parent is the first step in finding a solution. Rather than focusing only on the problem, channel your energies where you need help the most. And once we know that there is a problem, then you're able to go ahead and take steps and find the solution to fix that problem. But I like how it said, look at your strengths as well. Don't just focus on the negative. See the things that you are doing great at and how you can continue to do great in that. And then, the things that you can improve on, take little steps. Start with little steps and work towards, improving that behavior. Okay, so with this, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to the next teacher.
Hello, I'm so glad to see that everybody came here. Sarah did just such an amazing, thorough review and preparing us for this test that I think we should give her a great round of applause. You can tell when someone has been around the Peaceful Solution a long time, it doesn't matter for age, the effort that they put into this program, that's what's going to come through. And that's what we really want to get into our parents' mind is that it's effort. We must put effort into anything that we think is worthwhile. And I can't think of anything more worthwhile than raising up a generation of children that's going to be better than the generation we're living in now so that the problems that we are living in can be fixed. So going on to lesson 3. Let me tell you something that occurred yesterday with a little girl that we saw in town. We go to town, and we were at the post office, my sister and I, and we were dressed very modestly. We always wear our long dresses, and we cover ourselves very well. And we're going down. We had to pass a whole long row to get to the back of the line at the post office. And as we're getting to almost the end, there's this little girl with her mother. And she looked at us, and really with great expression and great joy, she said, "Mama, look at those two ladies." And it was like, I just felt so honored because she recognized that we were different and she respected that, and she really wanted to make sure that her mother saw us. Well, she said it loud enough where everybody sort of turned. And it just made me sort of laugh out loud a little because I just felt so joyful that she recognized modesty as a very joyful thing. So let's start on lesson 3. We're going to go over this page very well because it's very important. And you need to know this page very well. In fact, as you're getting ready for this test, know this, that you understand the connection between parenting and character. Because in order to put that character into your child, you have to make sure that you're developing it within yourself. You don't have to have it perfect. None of us, I think, when we started out as parents, had it perfect, but we can make it that way. We can get there. So we're going to make sure you know this well, that there is a difference between character and personality. And as you read that down, like in that second paragraph, so what is character? There it tells you what character is. And then also it has that definition there. It's a combination of traits that enable us to choose between positive and negative behaviors. Character is a combination of morals and beliefs, distinguishing between right and wrong. So you want to make sure you know that page, and that personality, that paragraph 2 down, that it's not to be confused with personality, because personality is the combination of qualities that make us unique, our likes and our dislikes. So you want to make sure that your parents know this here really well. So let's turn over to page 18 and 19. And that first paragraph, starting there, you want to highlight that where it says the combination of your moral principles. You see that one? Okay, that's what you want to highlight, that sentence. The combination of your moral principles, genetics, values, environment, and influences are interwoven to make up your character. So it's a combination of all those things. And we learned that I don't remember what it's called, but it's the G stands for genetics, F for family values, I for influences, E for experiences, C for choices, and E for environment. So it's all those different, a combination of all that makes up our character and who we are when we even enter into life. Because even within the womb, the child will have a different experience depending on what kind of character the parents have. So going over to, and just remember this here is the page where you have your positive and negative character traits. And then on page 20, if you turn over to page 20, paragraph 2, we're going to highlight that whole paragraph. And we're going to really emphasize that negative traits that are listed can lead to negative abuse and neglect. And that positive traits will stop these things. So let's just read over that. Negative traits such as being disrespectful, impatient, irresponsibility, a lack of discipline, and a lack of self-control can and will lead to abuse and neglect. Every year, more parents physically, sexually, and emotionally abuse their children. If these parents interacted using positive character traits such as self-control, patience, and respect, these abuses would never occur. So then we're going to go down to that next paragraph, and you're going to also highlight that next paragraph also. And then to become a positive, effective parent, you must carefully evaluate your character in order to weed out negative, undesirable traits. And that's what it's all about, is evaluating yourself as a parent. And that's something you really need to make sure that you get across to the parents, is that it's them working on themselves that will help them to become a better parent, to be able to bring children up having these same qualities. Everyone has traits that are less than desirable, but that should not stop them from striving to overcome our flaws. We all have the ability to make better choices towards others and ourselves. There is a saying that we all need to internalize, that practice makes perfect. You see that whether you're a parent trying to teach a child how to ride a bike, you see that the more you get them on that bike and you help them and you guide them, they're going to learn how to ride that bike. Well, if your child is having a situation in overcoming something, then you're going to set that example as you teach them with your words on how to overcome that. And the more that you do that, and sooner than you would think, it's going to be gone. And you're going to say, what did they used to do that bothered me so much that I used to get so irritated about? And you won't even remember because they're changing into a whole new person because of the diligence that parents put in. And emphasize to your parents that the effort that we put in, but keep practicing. Don't give up. Be consistent. That's the most important things. So then going down to that next paragraph 4, you're going to also highlight that whole chapter. By rehearsing ways to handle everyday situations with self-control and respect, we can begin eliminating negative traits from our character. Then, when similar situations occur in real life, we can be ready to handle them with integrity. Integrity means that you will consistently choose to interact with others and solve problems using positive character traits such as compassion, humility, and responsibility. Now remember, right there with integrity, that's your definition for integrity right there. So you'll want to make sure you highlight that in your book. Okay, under the heading, the first step right down below there, the first step, highlight the first sentence. The first step to develop a positive moral character is to evaluate your choices based on your responses to moral situations. So you're going to look at how you're reacting to your children. You're going to tell your parents, look at how you're reacting. Now, how is it that you want to? Evaluate yourself. See what you did wrong, and then you're ready to make a better choice the next time, a better way. You're going to plan on when that comes up again. How am I going to handle this? And you're going to look through these books and you're going to find the answers, and you're going to be able to become that effective parent that you really are striving to be. Because they aren't going to come to your class to learn how to be a better parent unless they have that desire and the willingness. So when they come to the class, make sure that you keep encouraging that they will make it, that things will change. And as they keep being consistent, they'll see those changes faster. So now let's turn to page 25. Page 25. It'll take a little while to get over there. It took me a little while. So on page 25, this is lesson 4, the roles of a parent. Paragraph 2 is what you want to highlight here, where it starts to effectively parent. Now these are emphasizing the roles of a parent. And so let's read this sentence. To effectively parent and raise a child, one must be able to successfully take on the role of teacher, provider, and disciplinarian. Okay, so that's what you really want to get out of this. There's 3 things that parents are. And that definition for teach is right under your role as a teacher. You see that? Your role as a teacher says to teach is to give or share knowledge so that someone else can learn. And that's a great thing that a parent will do. And emphasize to your students, the parents, that it's important to teach, to take the time to teach your children. No matter how many times it takes, go over it until they get it. They'll get it. If you're consistent, they will get it. And they're either going to want to stop hearing it and overcome what they're doing and make the necessary changes because, you know why? Because they know that you as a parent are there to help them, and they're seeing you changing as a parent, and they'll want to make those changes too. Okay, let's turn over to page 26. And then you'll just show that the different kinds of teaching your child to love to learn. And that's a very important thing. You can just highlight these headings. Teach your child, and that's in the third paragraph, teach your child to love learning. And then the next paragraph, teach your child about compassion. And this isn't something that you can just do by reading a book saying you must have compassion, and this is what compassion is. A child is going to have to see that. They're going to have to see you as a parent, to have empathy, and make sure when you're teaching your parents, you teach them that you can't just tell them by words. If you're not sure that you have enough compassion and empathy, that's where you're going to have to start becoming more. When the child falls, you're not going to say, what, did you fall again? Can't you even stand up? I've heard things like that said to children. But you're going to teach your parents that, listen, or are you okay? Can I help you? Are you really fine? Let me see. You know, you're really going to get into what just occurred there. And you're going to let them know that you care. And that when they see another child get hurt, maybe on the playground or somewhere that they're interacting with, they're not going to just tell them to get back up. They're going to make sure that they're okay. They're going to make sure that they help them. Do you need me to go get someone to help you? They see them crying. Can I help you? Can I get you a Kleenex? You know, they're going to be compassionate people because we are teaching parents to be compassionate people and have empathy, learning to put yourself in that place. And the next one, teach your child to care about others, regardless of their nationality or ethnicity, which, you know, there is no borderline in the house of Yahweh there. There's nothing that separates one individual as another. We're all human beings, and that's what we're going to teach our children, the oneness that the human race is, not differences that would cause separation. The oneness that we are, that we all have feelings, that we all need compassion, that we all need to care about each other. And then the next one is teach your child the importance of helping and serving others. And you know, if you let children, they want to serve. But sometimes, as you teach your parents, sometimes we parents want to do it all for them so that they can have this joyful life and they'll be joyful all their life. That isn't it. When you teach a child how to serve and how to get someone a glass of water, open the door for someone, they're going to know that they're learning to value that person, also value the fact that they can help make a difference. My children, I mean, I tell my children, you know, to help one another, and they do, and that's what parents do. They tell their children how to serve, and then when that child hears a thank you from someone, they think that really builds them up inside, that mom was right, dad was right. It really is important to help one another, and it makes me feel well inside. It isn't just something we have to do, but it's something that we will want to do. There's a difference between you have to open that door for someone or would you like to? Oh, yes, I would like to. So never make a child, parents, you know, teach your parents these things. Never make a child feel that they have to do something, but always put forth the reason why they would want to do something. And once you do that, you build that wantingness in them, they're going to be some of the most joyful children and serving children on the face. You know, you'll just not believe it. And it's never too late. Don't ever think, well, my child isn't a baby and I've made so many mistakes. Well, you know what? That is even a greater testimony to the Peaceful Solution Character Education Program, parenting, is when no matter where you start with them, that you can make transitions for your children. Let parents know it doesn't matter that they made mistakes before. I've always said, It doesn't matter where you stand right now, but what direction you're going, and that's very important. Teach your children, okay, serving, we did that, and being patient, loving, caring. Be willing to listen. Yes, listen. Listening is a very important thing. Okay, let's turn over to page 28. And this is the role of the provider and the disciplinarian. Now, up on the top there, it says, teach, to communicate skill or knowledge, to give instruction or insight, to instruct. And that, where was that? Let me go back here. I think I forgot. No, I did give you that definition of teach on page 25. It's the one on page 25 that is going to be, that's the one that you're going to need to know about teaching. So now emphasize that these three categories are needed to be positive parents, the different roles as a parent. The teacher, the provider, and the disciplinarian. Remember, now you want to remember what pages this is found on. This here, it's found on starting on page 25. So if you're asked, you're going to say, you know that on page 25, that a teacher, a provider, and a disciplinarian, that's where it starts talking about those things. So on page 25. Now let's turn to let's talk about a provider. You're just going over again the headings about making sure that their needs are met, a well-balanced diet, drinking enough water, to giving them their basic needs, and the role of a disciplinarian on page 30. And down here, nothing is going to be highlighted on here, but just know that as you go over these things, these are very important concepts that are needed to be an effective parent. And lacking in any one of them will not make the whole parenting thing work well. So everything in this book is important, except everything can't be on the test. So let's go over to page 37. And then that's lesson 5. Okay? On page 37, we're going to read the entire paragraph, paragraph 1. You want to highlight that. Paragraph 1. And this is effective parents have self-control. One of the most important character traits a person can develop is self-control. Think about it. How can we teach a child to have self-control if we are not practicing it ourselves? Have you ever noticed a parent who is screaming at her child because the child is yelling at a sibling? Yeah. You see how that's such an oxymoron? It's like, don't yell at your sister, but at that same point, you're yelling at the child. So where did they learn it from? And that's where the evaluation of the parent, that's always remembered for the parents to teach your parents to bring it back to themselves. How did it get this far? What mistakes have I made in the past? And what solutions are going to fix that now? So don't let them stay stuck there. Yes, there had been mistakes made in the past. Admit that, acknowledge that, and move forward. What about the parent who puts others down by talking bad about them in front of their children? These are only some of the ways that we fail to practice self-control. Okay, and then we're going to highlight the second paragraph, the first sentence. Becoming a better parent starts with self-control because it is the foundation of a positive character. Now, that first word is becoming. Really emphasize to the parent that just because you read this and you agree with it, don't expect yourself to live it right there and then, because there might have to be some things that need to be adjusted that take a little time. But the fact that you're willing to put that effort forward, you're willing to put that effort into overcoming and changing, you are becoming that better parent. Okay, and that right there in that self-control is a controlling of our own emotions, desires, and actions in order to arrive at a decision that is morally correct. Now you want to make sure you always emphasize to your parents that you're teaching that self-control is one of the hardest traits to learn. Why do you think that is? Our emotions get in the way sometimes. Feelings, past experience, doing something over and over the wrong way and then trying to fix it, and you want it fixed quickly, so you're impatient and you lose self-control again. So it's not that you're going to stop making mistakes in this process. In this process, you might still make the same mistakes. Some might get it right away and just put a halt to it. But the fact is, it's the word becoming. You're becoming, and it starts with self-control. Now you see this box down here on page 37 where self-control is about? You want to highlight that. Because self-control is about controlling what you think, because thoughts lead to feelings. Controlling what you feel, because feelings lead to actions. Controlling how you behave, because your actions reflect your character and can lead to rewards or consequences. And as a parent, no one's going to come to your house when you accomplish something and give you a certificate saying, oh, I just saw you overcome that with your child. Parents, you're going to have such a reward, and that's what you're going to teach your parents. You're going to have such a reward of knowing that the effort you're putting into this is your reward. It's not a piece of paper to hang on the wall that, hey, you just use self-control in that situation, where 10 times before I know you didn't use it. No one's even going to notice that. But when the changes start coming, it won't be just you noticing it. It'll be society around you that you used to bring your children out into, and then they would say, oh, here those children come again, watch out. They won't be saying that. They'll say, what are you doing different with your children? They've changed, they're responsible, they're respectful. They're going to want to know what program, how you did this. And that's the greatest reward, more than a plaque or a promotion or anything like that. It's knowing that you put forth that effort. And remind the parents, as you're teaching them, it's the effort that you put forth and the changes that you see in yourself and in them, that's going to be your reward. Okay, so let's now turn over to page 38. You see that bolded sentence right down toward the end of, it's actually the last sentence of that first paragraph, and it's bolded. You want to highlight that. Self-control is needed in every situation and with all emotions in order to make positive moral decisions. Let me read that again. Self-control is needed in every situation and with all emotions in order to make positive moral decisions. So you see right there, it's needed. It's not like, oh, well, okay, if I have it, I do, and I have it, I don't. Some days I will, some days I won't. Consistency, and that's when your child sees you becoming consistent, that will encourage them to be more consistent too. And then on paragraph 2, highlight, we did that. In the section entitled The Overall Picture, you see where that is down lower on the page? Highlight the definition for trigger, and that's the way down toward the bottom of that paragraph under the overall picture. It says triggers. Triggers are incidents that bring out specific responses from us. Now, this is the definition you're going to want to use for the test, right here, triggers. Triggers are incidents that bring out specific responses from us. And as you're teaching this to your parents will know what you're talking about because they know what every child is different. It doesn't matter how many children come from your own body. Every one of them is different, and one might spark a little emotion one way, where another might spark it another way. So you'll know how to handle each one. Everyone's personality in that family unit is going to be different. But different is great, and that's what, make sure you emphasize that to your parents, because even in different personalities, everyone deserves respect, everybody deserves to be treated with self-control, and everyone has value. So it's not like you're going to trigger one out as a problem child or not a problem child. You're going to all work together as a family, the needs of each other. And everybody's needs are different. One child might need a little bit more help. You know, I had one child that his feet grew enormously fast. I mean, it was like they just kept growing, and every 2 weeks it seemed like I was buying a new pair of shoes. But it didn't mean that every child had to get a new pair of shoes just because he got a new pair of shoes. You see what I'm saying? So emotionally, one child might need something a little bit more than the other. And it doesn't mean that you're not going to neglect, but you're going to need to help some more than others. So that doesn't mean it's wrong. You're still going to show everyone that you value each other. Okay, so let's go on down now. We're still on page 38. The bottom paragraph, you're going to highlight that. If you do not prepare yourself in advance to deal with these triggers calmly and morally, you could lose self-control and say or do something that causes harm to yourself, others, or property, and set a poor example for your children. Once you are aware of what your triggers are, you can formulate a plan to handle them without saying or doing anything that could cause regret or embarrassment. So we want to make sure, once again, it's always the parent who's going to be evaluating to make sure that their self-control is intact so that they set the righteous example for their children. Because, you know, we can tell our children words and words over and over, but if we're doing something different, what are they going to learn from? Tell the parents they're going to learn from our actions much more than our words. In fact, they might think our words are hypocritical and even cause more of a division. So that's why it's very important, tell your parents it's very important to get yourself in order and to really work on yourself, because this isn't just to fix the child, it's to fix the parents also. So we'll pick up next time we meet with more of this, going over and preparing for the test. Let us all stand now.